Hi everyone, my name's Claire. I'm the lead writer for Fablecraft, and today I'm going to show you our Game Master Guide, or the GMG. If you're planning to enjoy Fablecraft as a player character, please stop watching this video now because it is going to be riddled with spoilers. GMs, come with me and let me show you all of the tools that you'll have at your disposal as you run the road to the Starfall Festival, our first Fablecraft adventure. So hopefully you've created a campaign and you've invited your players, and you select host, which will bring you to this screen, the story scene. As you can see, my players are offline at the moment, leaving me to poke around the GMG without tipping them off to any of the things I have in store. To open the GMG, you're going to click this little book icon on the right-hand side of your screen. You're going to see an overview of the 5 sessions in this adventure, and also you can see some GM tips that we put together, especially worth checking out if this is your first time running a TTRPG, your first time as GM. You can use this menu to click through to whichever session you want, and just use the X to come back out to the session overview menu. Let's jump into session 1 and I'll show you everything that's inside it. So each session has a contents menu at the top, and you can use these menu items to skip down to any specific part of the adventure that you would like to. Each session's broken down into chapters, and those chapters have a short overview which will give you a heads up of what's going to come in the next section of the adventure. It's a good thing to scan, and remember not to read it aloud lest you reveal all of your secrets to your unsuspecting mages. Next up, you'll see a scene change module. These little guys make it super easy to change the artwork and music in a single tap. So this is actually the scene that we need to start the adventure. You're going to click this plus button. We're going to enter the rolling plains of the Long Meadows, and you can hear that the music's changed too. You can also add the NPCs that the players are going to meet in this particular section of the adventure. So they're going to be traveling with the Tallgrass Pride across the Long Meadows. The leader of the Tallgrass Pride is Dill Tallgrass, so we're going to add him, and Dandelion Swift is the Pride Guard. Once tokens are on the shared story scene like this, players can see them too. So both you and the players can hover over the tokens to see more about a character, or you can actually click through to see a full character sheet. If you scroll down to the bottom, there's longer bios for all of the NPCs. If you'd like to see player character sheets, you can just click on their tokens next to their video. It shows you their beautiful full bleed portraits. You can look at their different skill sets, their spells, and their combat abilities too. So in the GMG, we've set the scene, we've added our NPCs, and now we're going to read aloud this section of text to introduce the adventure. All of our read aloud sections are designed to just give you a script to read and cue in either a scene change or an event in the adventure. Always feel free to edit these, to adapt them, or to throw them out the window completely and do your own thing. This is your adventure, so use what's helpful, use whatever's helpful, and leave what isn't at the door. Another thing that you'll notice throughout this adventure is that certain phrases and words are highlighted in this orange text. If you hover over these, you'll reveal a tooltip which will give you more information and more context about whatever the word or phrase is. This is really helpful for referencing, especially if your players ask questions or want to know more, or roll skill checks to reveal more information about certain things. So do check out the tooltips. There's a lot of additional lore and world building that'll help add more depth to the different elements of the story. Next up, we have a role play module. Whenever you see one of these, it means that you're going to be encouraging a scene in which your players are really role-playing as their characters. And a lot of the time when you see one of these as the GM, you're going to be role-playing as an NPC. So in this case, you'll be role-playing as Dandelion Swift. Dandelion, as the Pride Guard, is a little cynical about these mages since she's obviously the sworn protector of Pride. She doesn't really see why mages are necessary to protect the Pride that she has so diligently protected ever since she's been with them. So she feels a little superior, and she's going to be kind of impatient if ever the mages look anything less than completely competent. That said, Dandelion does have a soft heart underneath it all, and by the end of the adventure, I'm hopeful that she will have become a firm friend. So here you'll be role-playing as Dandelion, asking the players where they're from, how they know one another, why they took Dill's contract, basically giving your players the opportunity to really introduce their characters and for everybody to get to know one another. As we move to chapter 2 of this first session, again, you'll see the chapter summary, you'll see a read aloud section, and now we get into our first skill roll request. So in the adventure, we have marked places where we're suggesting skill rolls to reveal information or to accomplish something, sneak past bandits, you name it, we're rolling for it. And we've included our recommendation for the skill that should be rolled and the difficulty level of the skill. So here you can see we're requesting a culture roll on normal. We're gonna hit this button, and these little icons show me how many dice each player has to roll for culture. So maybe I want DD Twinkletoes to roll the dice since they are the most cultured of the bunch. And this difficulty is on normal, but you can adjust the difficulty, make it difficult or impossible, bring it back down with the minus button at the top of this little pop-up. So when you send the request, on the player side, they then get a pop-up telling them the GM's requested a roll. They're going to roll the dice, and we'll all see that play out on screen. The game log just here in the side tray actually logs everything that happens, including dice rolls. So it can be really helpful reference, especially if you've had a lot of players roll all at once, to just see easily who was successful and who was not successful. So the Longstrider Pride are going to make camp at the side of the road. We have another scene change. And here we are in a lovely sunset scene with a roaring fire and some gentle music. What could possibly go wrong? We've baked in music to all of our artwork for the purposes of this adventure and to make it easy. If you would like to select different artwork, you want to go to the jukebox down here at the bottom of your dice tray, and there you'll see a bunch of different music tracks and environmental soundscapes that you can use to create a different mood. While you're here, you're going to play a mini game with Dandelion. This is where you are going to play Feat or Folly. You're going to try and accomplish different silly little tasks. You're going to roll the dice to see how you fare, and if you are successful, you get, much respect and value props from your fellow companions. If you fail, you have to reveal a folly, a secret, something you're embarrassed about, etc. Basically like truth or dare. So as you can see here, there's a little arrow to the side of this module, which you click to scroll through the different roles that you can do, the different feats you can accomplish. Remember that you can always make up your own. And if you don't want to adjust the skill from this pop-up menu, you can go to actions and you can see the full list of skills. The players also have this same list of skills, but they'll see the number of dice that they have to roll based on their level and their class. And you as the GM can see the full list of spells. Again, players will just see the spells that they have at their disposal. This is also where you can roll on behalf of NPCs. So much like the roll request pop-up, you can adjust the difficulty, but as the GM, you can also adjust the number of dice. So let's say we think Dill is extremely empathetic. We're going to give him 3 dice. We're going to roll. and turns out he's not that empathetic and he's actually failed that roll. But what you did see is that I have the lovely cake skins on my dice and they look delicious. So every cloud has a silver lining. Back to the GMG. So we scroll down, they're playing this game, and then suddenly bandits ambush the camp. So whenever you see this little cross sword icon, it means that there's a battle map you can load and you can enter combat. So let's do that now. We click the plus sign. Battle map loads. Until you click this little cross swords icon up here, you can move tokens wherever you want to on the battle map. So depending on the scenario, whether there was some role play that led to a different arrangement of players and enemies, you can move tokens as you see fit. When you're ready, hit this little icon and combat begins. The GMG is still available for your reference in this scene. The combat will play out, and when you're ready to return to the story, hit the return to story scene button just here. Unfortunately, after the bandit attack, the camp is actually looking a little worse for wear. So we're going to scroll down to another scene change. Some damaged caravans, some sad music, and a very distraught Dill Tallgrass. The Star Seeker, the object that you've been sworn to protect, has been stolen, and it's going to be up to the mages to look for it. So they're going to search the camp for clues to see which direction the bandits have fled. But of course, first they can loot the bandits that they hopefully defeated in combat if they wish. We don't have inventory in the game just yet, but for now we've just detailed items for you, and you can make a note of those on the side and use them as you go. The dagger and bow that you can find here, not very helpful when you have magical powers. Shadow Rune, on the other hand, will give a player reduced difficulty on their next agility roll, so they could be extra stealthy if they want to. So now we enter this section called Investigate, and this contains lots of different ideas in collapsible sections for things that your players can find around the camp to tip them off which way to go to follow the bandits. So we'll never be able to predict all of the weird and wonderful things players will want to do, but here are a few ideas with built-in role requests. And if your players are first-time players, and if you're a first-time GM, don't be afraid to prompt some of these roles. So for example, if you have a naturalist in your party, or if somebody's playing a character that's sort of on the quiet side and a good observer, then have them roll a nature check, and if they're successful, they may spot that they're being watched by a raven, which will fly away as soon as the players notice it, but it will fly in a southern direction. And don't forget, you can always add additional skill checks for this. Let your players go wild, but if they go too wild and they just decide, nah, we're not going to help, we've also included some tips to kind of try and keep them on track as well. If your players go rogue and you'd like to let that happen, and you want to pull in artwork outside of the GMG, you can go to Scene and simply drag and drop any of these pieces of artwork across to the story scene to change the location entirely. So that's an option. And when it comes to your NPCs, once you want to leave them behind, you can simply drag them back over to the right and remove the token from the story scene. We've marked a suggested session end where we think it's an appropriate break point, and at the beginning of every session after that, there's a summary of what's come before. But just because we've done that, do whatever suits you. If you want to just carry on through and join sessions together, or do less and stop halfway through, that's entirely up to you, and experimentation and adaptation is strongly encouraged. Also strongly encouraged is sharing your feedback. At the end of every session in the GMG, we've included a little summary of what you've just seen and what might be different about one session from another, and a big send feedback button which links to a survey form. Please, please, if you have the time, do fill that out for us, because we will absolutely be making design decisions based on your feedback. As we look ahead to creating a homebrew version of the GMG, let us know which of the little modules that you've seen would you love to be able to customize for your own adventures. What was really helpful to have? What was overkill? What felt stifling versus what felt like it prompted you to kind of expand your myth and horizons? We want to hear all of it. It's so valuable, and thank you so much in advance for taking the time to do that. That's it from me. That's our overview of the GMG. Enjoy your first session of Fablecraft, and we'll see you soon. Bye.